the best way to learn is not necessarily learning from others, but also trying to see the person who's going to evaluate your work. What are they looking at? How do they really think when they are looking at your work? And the ultimate aim there is to then say, okay, this is a good platform for me to actually see before I submit what it looks like to submit something that would then be graded at the level of PhD or master's. So please do not be intimidated. You too can also be my best students. So don't think our prof has got his favorites that he likes. I think what I just want is a situation and a setup where we get better, and that's what this is about. This is not about getting. We want you to get the qualification, and you can easily show to say, you know what, I learned a lot in the process, and yeah. So this is the exercise. So we're going to try and do two of them. One is a master's one. The other one is a PhD one. And don't worry, because I need to first check out something here. Because you are also headed that way, okay? So don't start worrying to say, I'll never get to this standard, because I think it's a bit too late for that now. No one is going to drop out. We're all going to see this thing to the end. So here we go. So I always like working with dual screen. If you come to the office, you'll see that on one side of the desk, I'll have a dual screen, and I can make the font as big as I can. And some days I wear glasses, so it helps. Some days it's also nice. And it's also nice when you put it on big screen. I hope you all can see the screen, right?
Yes, Prof. No problem.
Okay, perfect. It's nice when you zoom in and you can zoom out to see. Yeah, it's also great. So as we go through this, I hope you also take notes, because the mistakes that students make kind of remain the same among students. And so I'm also glad that we can have this exercise to also correct. Okay, so some of the basics we're expecting. We will be expecting you to put the Forte logo on top of the cover page of the proposal. This is the cover page of the proposal. She's put the logo there. She's put the title. Look at the difference between the title and the rest of the text. It shows you that she has thought about it to say, okay, if you are a reader, what I want you to focus on as a reader is to know the differentiation that exists between main text and little text. And not little in the sense of not relevant, but little text. In fact, what I should do here is to say auto track changes, so because we'll be correcting some of the things. So neat cover page, not too cluttered, nicely even spread out. You see the spacing in between. You see she's written research proposal. Later on, after you've done well with your research proposal and you've defended it, we'll turn this into submitted in fulfillment to the degree. It's now a dissertation chapter or a thesis chapter, depending on the level that you're taking. So I like that. Very neat. She's got her name there. Can we do anything to help? Well, maybe I'm being picky and panicky. Maybe I could just drop that and then it would look like this. And then it's equally spaced. Now, I'm not sending you the proposal, obviously. So you will need to take notes. So please don't say, please send us the proposal. Please take notes. Okay. And I love this. It's so neat. It shows order. Her name is there. The supervisor and the co-supervisors are there. Nice. Okay. So I'm happy with the cover page. I can move on. Then zoom in next. Okay. Let's go to page 2. Page 2, she's okay. So one of the things you should watch out for, unnecessary spacing. So you can see there's space here. So one thing you can just do, highlight it, delete that, and then all that space is covered. I always prefer the table of contents to be centered. Okay, and please note there's a distinction there. So what else is there a distinction? Well, you can see the introduction is a main heading. This is 1.2, it's also a main heading, but there's also a distinction between main headings and subheadings. Okay, and that's important because that distinction also helps in terms of the layering out of your work and how it's ordered. She has not done what some students do, where she personally puts the dots herself. She's used the official software for from Word. Prof, where do I get? Well, it's simple. Google, go to YouTube. YouTube will teach you how to do it. And by now, we all need to know how to do it. Look at how neat the wording is in terms of preliminary literature review. Guys, it's nice when you help the supervisor to show that this is how organized I am. I can easily put together my ideas. There's consistency. Subheadings are appearing there, and main headings are also appearing. So all of you will need to produce all these headings, and we've spoken about these headings. They are available, and we've spoken about it in the last submission we spoke about. Neat, orderly. What else is there to show for? Well, have a look. She's put the Roman numeral for page 2. She's not put the number 2. Some people even put the word 2. She's put the Roman numeral, and that's correct. One little thing though, we don't put the word on the Roman numeral on the cover, on the cover page. And the tricky part is then it disappears here. That's what I always fear. But she'll have to figure it out. I'll have to write it somewhere there. Ideally, we don't put the Roman numeral on the cover page. Anyway, moving on. She then goes into the argument. Now, please note, before you go and say, what hope is there for us? This is the second draft. And I'm impressed for a second draft, for her to be producing such good work. This is a serious, serious student. And these are the type of students at the end of the master's, I will easily approach and say, okay, I want to work with you on a PhD. If you're interested on a PhD, don't worry about funding. I'll look for the funding for you. Are you available? And it's nice because you're continuing and developing this talent. Okay, so I zoom in like this, and this is what I do. I try to read. One little problem there, which I'm going to flag a little bit later on, which I can push here. I'll just write, please note, reduce the number of pages for the proposal to be at least 25 pages, including the references. So now, is she going to start worrying and say, oh, what the heck am I going to do here? No, not really. Save some of the information you will remove for the literature chapters. So she's not wasting it, but she's also going to put it there. What we want are the most salient details of your work. And that's what we want. And idea of the proposal. So it's not enough, eh? I would also say congratulations on putting this together. Now, sometimes this exercise that you're witnessing live right now happens at 2 in the morning. And sometimes if I see, there's no hope here, this person is not helping the process, I just say, retiring, going to bed. But this is a nice exercise. You can see this is all reading and flowing. So let's go into it. Heading, introduction. Okay, I apologize, I'm going to be reading aloud. I think that's also another exercise that you can do as you self-edit your work. You can also read your work aloud. It also helps you to be able to pinpoint issues that you may want to flag. Okay, let's go. The shift to a knowledge-based economy has placed emphasis on the importance of knowledge as a competitive resource. See how it's a nice little opening line, gets the interest and attention of the reader. And you already know that, okay, so there's a little bit of IT here because we're talking about knowledge-based economy. According to the latest APA 7 version, if it's 3 or more authors, we no longer need to declare first. We just need to write it out as et al, like that. So don't, yeah, if it's 3 or more authors, go straight for et al. Look at the source that she opens with, not too recent, but at least it's a bit modern, 2017, not long ago. The dynamic business environment through external influences such as technology is constantly changing the nature of knowledge exchange within and between organizations. Another great line. She's building it up nicely, leading into her argument. Certain capabilities and skills are then required, and it only makes sense. If we are driving towards the knowledge economy, we must be driving towards getting people to have certain skills or a component of skills that will help them to not only survive, but to also flourish and to work well in this knowledge-based economy. What are you seeing there, guys? Well, let me show you. What she's doing is she's not getting straight into the argument by saying, so-and-so defines knowledge economy as that, so-and-so defines, she's building it up nicely to say, okay, for you to try and understand where I'm taking all of this, what I want to do, first of all, is to build up my argumentation so that when I build it up nicely, by the time I get to now telling you what I want to do, you will be able to actually say, well, we reckon we knew where you were going with this. Therefore is a connector statement. So therefore, sometimes students use it loosely. Therefore is as a way of saying, based on these arguments presented, the conclusion or the direction which we are going towards is this. So therefore is a connector statement. Various forms of knowledge require skills to be incorporated accurately into the business. And there is a 2020 source. You know, I smile when I see 2020 sources because I sit on these committees. Hold on, just sidetracked here. Another student is struggling here, so I want them to join this masterclass. Okay. Sorry about that. So therefore is a connector statements of ideas to say, okay, so the build-up we're doing is leading us somewhere. The various forms of knowledge require skills to be incorporated accurately. You can also read where this is going. This project has something to do with knowledge, skills, capabilities. And then she does something remarkable. The challenge then hinges, come on, hinges. My honors students used to laugh at me to say, well, now your problem is you like to use Woolworth's English. I never taught this student, but I love the language and the grammar. I mean, you can't be using, the challenge is that. It's like yesterday's bread, if you ask me. The challenge then hinges. You know what a hinge is? A hinge is that little piece of metal that holds the door to the wall. And you see the imagery that the challenge then hinges at the management level, that if all of this is to happen, the management level is critical. And I like that because she's then locating her study within the discipline that she's working in. The challenge then hinges at the management level as to how the information can be synchronized within the business. However, and then she's potentially identifying a gap The right knowledge resources requires a set of dynamic capabilities to fully reach the potential. So and there's a 2020 source. So having looked at that, I can also safely say, okay, we are headed towards something about business capabilities, and there's a gap there. But just look at this paragraph. This paragraph is just amazing because it's well crafted. There are no hanging ideas. Everything is flowing, one idea from the other. She's developing the idea as it goes on. Imagine having that one friend that you're having a discussion with. And as you start the discussion, you're talking about the unemployment situation in the Eastern Cape. And within 2 minutes, they are now talking about COVID-19. They're now talking about something totally different. And then you say, okay, hold up. Where are we going with all of this? CRP? We don't know. And what she's now doing this now is she's building up the ideas nicely. So think of that, building up ideas, avoiding loose, fragmented statements in your writing. So the next line now, okay, here's a little error. You see there's a little space there. Okay, minor thing. All I can do as a supervisor, press the enter thing and the backspace, and it sorts it out. Abbreviations, human resource management. Because I will be using this term a lot in my research, I will now declare it as HRM. Is the functional area of a business which has direct responsibility for attracting functional, yes, the right knowledge in a business, and she puts the reference. So that's a definition. So she's not started the dissertation by defining concepts. She started the dissertation by argumentation, showing the both sides of the coin. The practices that those in human resources, because we are going to also use another term which is different to human resource management called human resource, she declares it, perform are crucial in ensuring the business meets its goals and objectives, and she puts the reference there. This has now drawn attention to HRM as a core strategic area in both large and small organizations, building up to the context of the study. Another term that she'll be using frequently, human resources management practices. Human resource management practices, and she declares it, are crucial to reconcile the business with the right knowledge capabilities. And she quotes some recent work that we've published with some colleagues from Uganda. Knowledge, therefore, is embedded in the, okay, and then here is a little thing I would do. I would say knowledge is embedded in the orientation and execution of HRMPs, because it's not one, but many, exhibited through business processes, which in turn affect one singular, not affects, affect business performance. She cites the source there. Therefore, a mediating effect of the dynamism, a mediating effect, okay. Kanyisa says she can't hear anything. Let's try and sort it out. Gosh, let's see here. Did you try? Oh, okay. Did you try to connect via audio? But everybody else can hear me, right?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
Prof.
Okay. All right. All right. So we'll see. You can. We'll record it. Yeah, it's being recorded. Therefore, a mediating effect of the dynamism is expected in the relationship between HRMP and business performance. Okay. Small businesses are currently the focus of much attention around the world due to their concrete economic and concrete. My goodness. At this time, I just look, and if there is a heaven, I say, this is beautiful writing. The words are not cheap and easy, but they are well crafted to show the level at which, and this is just a master's student, can you imagine? They are concrete economic and social impact on various economies. On the other hand, and when she says on the other hand, she's doing something that we all need to learn. We need to avoid this binary way of thinking where we only see things from one lens. We also, as researchers and scholars, when we write, to also be cognizant that there is another world out there. So take, for instance, I'm writing about challenges entrepreneurs face, okay, in the South African context, I'm equally duty bound to also look at the opportunities that entrepreneurs have in the South African context, even though that is not my main argument. But the type of binary writing where we just see things from one point of view really needs to be avoided, and where we can actually allow for this openness and seeing things differently. On the other hand, can I show you a little word? On the other hand is how many? 1, 2, 3, 4. Here is one word that replaces on the other hand. It's called conversely. And conversely, if you accept it in and then you check synonyms, it simply means on the other hand. So instead of saying 1, 2, 3 words on the other hand, conversely kind of summarizes nicely. This attention is also due to the poor performance of small businesses, which hampers their survival, especially in developing countries. And she keeps on harping developing countries, emerging economies, because that's the location of her study. And she's even bold to say, such as South Africa. So we definitely knowing that this research is headed towards South Africa. One of the reasons indicated for the poor performance has been a lack of knowledge and management expertise, which are evident in South African small businesses. Again, this is positioning what a gap is. Therefore, a repositioning of small businesses in terms of knowledge and capabilities for a greater level of competency is not only a concern, okay, she's positioned it, the binary way of thinking as a concern, but it's also an opportunity. It's not only a concern, oops, let's try that again, is not only a concern, but an opportunity. Leave it like that. And when you leave it like that, you're actually saying that this is the gap that the research is going to possibly fill. Look at where this argument comes from a 2020 source. So these are recent argumentations that are happening. So the background, dynamic capabilities, and now she's defining concepts that she's using. Encompass the capacity of businesses to absorb resources, to adapt to the changing environment, and for better performance. The environment in which businesses operate in, you don't have to say operate in, you can say operate, have been subjected to a mesh of mesh. Now I need to check that one because I didn't expect that one. A network, so a wire, so a mesh. See, you learn things every day. I didn't know that one. A mesh of turbulent external factors such as government, environmental. No, we can't be environmental. You can say such as the government, or you can say such as government, and then we say the environment. And technological factors. And technological factors. You don't have to say amongst other factors. So you can say and technological factors. So you see what she's doing now. There is a steady flow of the idea, and you can actually see how the argumentation is happening. We are trying to reduce unnecessary wording, and also reduce challenges that can impede also the ideas that she's putting. This has consequently questioned the internal environment of businesses that consists of internal processes, procedures, and the people to handle such processes. What do we know first? Okay, it's becoming a bit too long, so I think we can just drop a line, new paragraph. In this regard, the business environment has become highly competitive and is now prompted to exploit the scarce resources available. The resulting emphasis is on an alternative knowledge-based economy which is capable of yielding a competitive advantage. This knowledge-based economy is even more critical in South Africa, which is notably, do you see how every matter of fact that is presented is being supported by a source? Sometimes students fear citing sources. Why? Because they think that if I'm quoting sources too much, it will mean that I'm in a situation or in a position where I'm not. This is very scholarly, so don't worry about it. More of this deficiency clouds. You say ordinary student would say more of this deficiency causes a barrier. Clouds, just imagine a cloud just comes in front of you. It's a barrier already. The country's small business sector which is undergoing, significant challenges as a result of the knowledge deficiency. This places importance and a renewed focus on the role of human resources management within small businesses as a function that administers over human capital in a business. Therefore, connector statement, therefore is like the part where the president builds up fellow South Africans. He tells us what are the challenges that are happening. And then he says, therefore, given this, then you know that this is the bittersweet medicine he's going to give us to warn us about what we ought to do. Therefore, it is argued that human resources management in small businesses needs a greater degree of proficiency in order to assume this role efficiently. What role? The role that I've been building up for. This is because human resources management exerts influence on a business through the employees to yield business outcomes such as performance. Human resources management practices, plural, are the link mechanism through which the HRM of a business exerts this influence, plural, by enhancing the employees whose collective performance is crucial to the business. In contrast, remember avoiding the binary way of writing. Whoa, okay, my chair just broke. In avoiding the binary way of writing, where you just look at something from one position, you try to also look at it from the other position. And whenever you see her using words like in essence, therefore, the conclusion is this, she's basically doing that to say, okay, I've told you one side of the story. I now need to be prudent as a scholar and tell you the other side of the story. And this becomes important because the other side of the story is basically what researchers and scholars would like to term as critique. The ability to not only accept things as they are, but to see them from the lens of a crucial lens of scrutiny, to say, well, it is what it is. However, we also need to see it from the other side or the other coin. In contrast to this, some scholars have claimed that, presenting a view of the other, that the human resources management practice or human resources management of small businesses does not have to be as pronounced as those of large businesses. So it doesn't really have to follow a big budget like what some of the other organizations would do. The most crucial thing here, and now the argument with that, is that small businesses by their nature are small. And so we don't expect their resource component to be as large as that. Beautiful writing. Given the poor state of small businesses, not only in South Africa, but also internationally, so what she does there, she draws a position of comparison by not only looking at it from one lens, which is the African lens, but also looking at it internationally. So what she's trying to do indirectly to the reader is to say, what I'm talking about here is not only specific to the context of South Africa. This is a phenomena that is relevant, that is also crucial to the context of the international scenario. There is continued need to study HRMP. And this is what we call argumentation, where she's now saying that given these arguments, there is continued need. And so you can see this study is going to involve something about human resources management practices, because this is the buildup that is being presented in there. In essence, small, remember connector statements, small businesses are posited as the big business of tomorrow as they transition from competing locally to competing with the big players. In your writing, guys, be cognizant of using tools of writing which may work to your favor. Some tools of writing includes imagery of comparison, okay, where you position the range of options that may exist, particularly with issues related to the phenomena that you're working with. And when we look at it further, what she then does is to then say, in a South African context, okay, she's narrowing it because this section is called the background of the study. In South Africa, small businesses, what do? Are facing challenges. What are some of the challenges that these small businesses are facing? And these are presented here. These challenges that small businesses are facing have to do with issues of inclusivity. They have to do with issues of socioeconomic participation. That's the way the social transformations okay, now this statement is a bit too long and it could be rephrased. So I'm going to ask that statement actually be rephrased, because what that statement then does is that it then it becomes mouthful and wordy. So we could just say sentence too long, and then we put the word revise. Okay, so there's necessity to make it slightly a bit shorter. Likewise, as a developing country, South African small businesses are predominantly labor-intensive. Okay, now mistake number one. This person here is the former HOD of the department. She's going to be sitting in that meeting, and her name has been spelled wrongly. So it should be Rungani. Rungani and Potgieter make that argument. These reasons delineate that HRMP are instrumental to the performance of small businesses. Therefore, amidst some pertinent missing links to the success of small businesses, the collective knowledge and thought processes of both the managers and employees throughout the business is also crucial. I can see there's too much space there. So one line, space there, okay? It's crucial. So these are things that you can pick up for yourselves as you self-correct and observe and look at your work. Because what it does is that it's not a matter of just sitting and accepting to say, well, the supervisor is going to help me address this. That is the knowledge-based economy. The capacity to exclusively apply new knowledge is initiated by the dynamic environment, okay? Argumentation. And what do we know about the dynamic environment? Well, it's exactly that. It is dynamic and ever-changing. So there's necessity for us to keep abreast with what is happening in that environment. So the performance, therefore, becomes an important factor and a measure, and it comes handy to assess the contingent factors upon which the success of small businesses is based. Argumentation, a good point. She puts multiple authors, simply means that she's trying to just show us to say, listen, this view is not a view which is just held by one community, but a group of scholars. So the study will examine, therefore, the mediating effect and it positions the need for the study. The easy parts now, the research problem documents, she tells us what the research problem documents. The section outlines, okay? So what are those things? It is widely agreed, despite their claimed role in the economy, small businesses are a concern. Now, are a concern. It's rather vague, okay? Because if they are a concern, on one end, we know that they are needed to keep the economy alive. So small businesses face challenges, you could say that, okay? Amidst the slumping South African economy and a soaring unemployment rate, small businesses in South Africa continue to fail. This is as a result of a lack of the necessary knowledge management skills needed to update and assimilate meaningful information into small business operations. In the same vein, despite a notable emphasis on knowledge and human capital, see what she's done. In the same vein, comma, this is despite this is one point, she puts a comma. You see where the commas are then become helpful, and this is why reading of work is important. The discourse on whether or not human resources management practices affect small business performance and how so continues to linger and pose a critical research dilemma. Furthermore, I would put a paragraph there. Literature shows the gap in this research on the procedure of how dynamic capabilities affect the relationship, and that's supported by references. On these grounds, you could even say, based on this, it is pertinent to examine the performance of small businesses from an HRM and knowledge perspective, and she puts the references there. The question then is, if knowledge informed HRMP that enhances, again, this needs to be revised. Examining these constructs also prompts the need, and she clarifies, of the dynamic capability, how dynamic is dynamic. Therefore, the study will examine the mediating effect of small business HRMP defined as ability enhancing, motivation enhancing, and performance. To establish the mediating effect of knowledge-based dynamic in the relationship between small business HRMP and small business performance, this is the primary objective. The secondary objectives, and the secondary objectives is informed by the sub-constructs that they have in their study, and she puts the secondary objectives, and she's even put a question, a research question, which is there, okay, around the research that she's doing. She puts the hypothesis 1, she puts it there, hypothesis 2, hypothesis 3, and she even adds a model. The model helps us to see what she's trying to ascertain. Now, the model is drifting off the page, and ideally, maybe we need to just push it one up, and then it starts to fit on the same page. And something is missing. This is the figure, okay? So there might be need to adjust that. Ideally, should be on the same page as the model. So let's write that. Ideally, it should be on the same page as the model. Okay, so the significance is presented. The significance of the study affords the reader the opportunity to understand why the research is being conducted, or the gaps that the research is going to fill, or the policy practitioner imperative of the research. There is noted scant literature on the role of human resources management, and accordingly HRMP. The resolve of this study, therefore, is to contribute, okay? So because there is scant literature, we want to contribute towards that literature. Why should we do that? Well, this illumination is done in a way South Africa, which records a high failure rate of small businesses. I would still add, because this is positioned as a matter of fact, cite the source used above, used earlier rather, around small business failure in SA. Similarly, by examining the performance in light of these constructs, knowledge will be gained on the factors that affect survival and growth of, well, we are not measuring survival and growth. Let's get that clear. We are measuring performance. So we are not measuring these. So replace with performance. So you see what we are doing. Everything must be specific to the nature of the project that we have framed. The study includes both subjective and objective aspects of performance, assessing the dynamics of their impact factors, as opposed to focusing on one aspect of performance, such as the financial, okay, we are also focusing on not employee, or such as only financial, otherwise known as objective performance, or employee performance referred to as subjective performance. Okay. Therefore, by capturing both aspects of business performance, the two, objective and subjective, the operating small business environment, which is essential for survival, is taken into consideration strategically. Now, that doesn't make sense. So what I would write is revise sentence. And then the reference report that while there's been extensive, actually, then she starts to dovetail into the policy imperative. By looking at the United Nations, you can mention the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Okay, I could write that. Maybe mention which sustainable development goal your work fits. Okay, the SDGs become the most important factors that we must pay attention to, and they are critical because they give us a picture of areas for development and areas that we need to pay attention to. And that helps to show the reader also that you are aware. And then she then quotes the role of the Department of Small Business Development, the imperative. So all of you, because of the nature of your study, you've got stakeholders like the Department of Science, Technology, and Innovation. You can ask a question like, how does my research contribute to the NRF policy on science engagement? How does my research contribute to government imperatives as set out by the Department of Science and Technology? All of that are just aspects that help you to improve your work. She goes into the preliminary literature review. The preliminary literature review is split into two sections. The first one is the theoretical literature. The second one is the empirical literature. So she discusses the theories that are related to the study. And in this case, there are three theories: the dynamic capabilities perspective by Thies, the human capital theory by Becker, and the contingency theory by Fiedler. So all of these are related to the constructs that she can work with. And then what does she do next? Check out what she does next. She starts to unpack each and every one of these factors. She starts to unpack the dynamic capabilities with reference support. She's using the resource-based view. She's declared what RBV means, and she's put it there, and she starts to explain what the theory, but she's explaining the theory in view of the idea that she's researching. She's not just explaining the theory for the sake of just explaining, but she's explaining it in view to ideas of human resources management practices. She goes to the next theory, the human capital theory. She puts the idea of the human capital theory. It's well explained. By investing in knowledge, HCT implies. She explains what HCT implies. Therefore, human capital, again, every theory that she's presenting is linked to the study that she's conducting. She then goes further. She talks about Fiedler's contingency theory. The contingency theory really helps us inform about the role of the environment. And she talks about the environment to say, well, part and parcel of the challenge or the issue of how businesses perform is informed by the context in which they are operating. So that becomes a logical argument. She starts to build up the conceptual framework by highlighting the main constructs in her study. How does she know the main constructs in her study? She goes to the model. The model tells you where you need to be paying attention to, which is HRMP, knowledge-based capabilities, and performance. So don't go and discuss things that are not in the model, because the model then becomes the positioning part of the work. So she presents what we call a conceptual literature around the framework that she's working with. Knowledge-based dynamic capabilities. If we go to the model, we can see knowledge, knowledge-based capabilities. Goes further, starts to talk about the definition of small businesses in South Africa. Why? Because small businesses are part of the conceptual framing of the study. So that's fine. So small businesses are defined differently with different definitions. Some issues here, she uses words like 32M, between 3M. Rather write the word million, because M can mean other things. GDP, okay? In fact, the declaration is actually here. So this part here should actually be here. And then this opening bracket should be not there. The bracket should actually be here, and the closing bracket should actually be here. SMMEs constitute therefore 9 to 1. So what is she doing? She's presenting facts. She's presenting positions of facts to also support the argumentation that she's working with. So Borat et al. Concurs that the largest composition of small businesses in South Africa, again, showing argumentation there. Everything that is in the literature or the conceptual literature is in the model. That's you're doing it right if you constantly are referring to what is in the model. And for the master's students on this course, you have models, and the models should be telling you what literature you should be discussing. So she presents the literature on the HR practices, and she then presents business performance. We know because business performance is in the model. And she discusses what business performance is all about as a way of build up, and then she goes into the methodology. The hypotheses have already been stated. So what she's basically doing in a very simplified manner, she is presenting literature that supports. Almost done. Then we can open it up. I think we'll only look at one. I thought we were going to look at two. She's presenting literature that supports these hypotheses. So when you read the literature, the direction of what these hypotheses are saying is what should be covered. She then goes into the methodology, which I want to talk to you about for your studies. And then for Floyd and Samuel, I think there is clarity now in terms of where you're working with. But for the master's students, you are going to collect data with staff and students in historically disadvantaged institutions, which are Venda, Limpopo, UWC, WUSU, you can name all of those institutions. You can even go and download literature because the location of the study is in an HDI context. So somewhere in your proposal, we would like to know, so what's the fascination and the obsession with HDIs? And you were there at that launch that we did, the framing of the importance of HDIs as future-enabled institutions, HDIs as occupying a policy imperative of transformation for the all of those are arguments that you can incorporate in. So like this student, all of you are working with, the master students are working with quants. The methodology of the research, she defines what these are. Maybe we could also remove this. She presents the paradigm. The paradigm is divided into two paradigms, positivist and interpretivist. Positivist refers to quantitative research. Interpretivist refers to qualitative research. You are using the positivist paradigm, okay? She then defines the justification of the paradigm. She then goes to the design. The design is split into three. Vid and Diggins position, they call them the descriptive, exploratory, and causal. In this case, because there is an element of trying to describe, she then frames it nicely here. The descriptive research is the one that she's using. You as master's students and anybody who's using quantitative part, we're also going to be locked into that descriptive paradigm. She then goes into the approach. There are two types of approaches, quantitative and qualitative. By virtue of the survey that you're using, you are all, the master's students especially, using a quantitative research approach. And she explains what the quantitative research approach and that balance with that. She goes into the next section. She's talking about the data collection method. You, like her, are using the survey technique as a data collection method, which is what she's writing about here. Population and sampling. Now, here we play with numbers, okay? Finding out, we can do it as a population, as a what we call a census, where we try and get the exact number of staff and the exact number of students in HDIs, in those 5 HDIs, WUSU, UFH, UWC, Venda, Limpopo, University of Zululand. There are 6 of them. But that's not what we want. We want convenience. Why? There are challenges before us. The pandemic is with us. Ordinarily, we would have to go to each and every one of these campuses and be collecting. We are mostly and probably going to be putting the survey online, and people, and sending the link to the respective institutions, and the institutions will therefore then distribute the link and people can fill out due to the challenges that we all know that we are facing. So we are using a non-probability convenience sampling approach. Convenience is that we are only accessing those that are most accessible to us and what we are trying to achieve. Data analysis, we are testing structural models, okay? That model that I showed you there, or that you've created in your research, is what we call a structural model. So please write this down. This structural model is tested through a range of statistical techniques, Pearson correlation or correlation test. So go and Google and download information. What does a correlation test measure? You don't have to tell us the whole shebang, what it measures, but just tell us what a correlation test measures. The other thing that we're going to do, we also have mediation. So we're going to use regression tests. So you can mention regression, correlation, and regression. And I think it's sufficient for the master's students. I'll also send you a paper later on tomorrow on how to test a structural model. Reliability and validity, this is the part I'm currently completing and will be sending it to you. Where are the questions coming from? And how do these questions, so please don't worry about this section. I will send you the information with the valid questionnaire. And then delimitations. Delimitations is just defined as information that is important, okay, to the research that you are not measuring, but would ultimately possibly influence the research that you're doing. What are some of the delimitation factors that we can talk about? We can talk about the institutional culture, okay? 6 institutions have got different cultures. So how they approach the usage of high performance computing systems and resources in these universities differs because of the institutional culture. So you are acknowledging the fact of institutional culture as important to the research or influencing the research, but you're also acknowledging it as that you're not measuring it in your study. Okay, you're acknowledging it to be an existing factor. There are other factors that are there, policies within the organization. Okay, there are factors such as the resources within the organization. So all of those are factors that possibly could influence the work that you are doing, but needing to be acknowledged as important, but not being measured in the research that you're doing. And finally, ethical considerations. Basically, in this section, we want to know the different types of principles of ethics that you're going to deal with. Informed consent, voluntary participation, no coercion, the information of people will not be kept or recorded, privacy would be respected, no linkage between a person and the data that they are going to provide. So there are many, many types of policies that can affect the work that we do in view of the work that we're doing. Finally, then you tell us the structure of your chapter. She's put chapter 1 is the literature and background. The chapter 2 is a literature review. Chapter 3 is a theoretical literature. Chapter 4 is the empirical literature. Very organized. Chapter 5 is the methodology, the analysis. So she's going to have 7 chapters. She then goes into the references. Because this is APA, the title of the journal must be italic, okay? And she has not done that there. The title of the journal must be italic, so the other ones look fine. She's even put where she's got it in terms of the DOI, which is this unique number that nowadays people are citing in the work that they are doing. And she's put all the journal information. It's orderly, and trust you me, inside the committees where she's going to present this, there is somebody who will be sitting down to watch whether all of this has been done. Somebody will be sitting to see that reference inside the document for Chinyamurindi. Is it there in the reference list? And it's there. So you must make sure that what you cite in text, you also cite in the final reference list. And basically, for a second draft, I think with these minor changes that this person needs to make, they are now ready to go and present to the department. After the department, they present to the faculty. After the faculty, they are ready to now apply for ethics and start collecting data for their research. This is a master's, so it's a 2-year study. In some other places, somebody would think this is actually a PhD, but the way that I've never seen this at the moment right now is one of the best students I'm working with, because they know how to write, and they logically present all this information, so that it's not a rush of what can I put in, but it's a battle of saying, how do I make sense and present it in a way that also helps me in the work that I'm doing? Any questions? Yeah, we'll only look at one because it's already past. We wanted to end now, but we'll only look at one piece of work. Any questions you'd like to ask?
Prof, you just said that you're recording, so are you going to upload this session for us or not?
I'll do that. I'm also going to first ask for the permission of the person. I forgot to mention that. So I will ask.
Okay,
I don't think it should be a problem, but I'm going to ask for permission, because I think this is an excellent piece of work.
Okay, thank you, Prof. I appreciate that.
Oh, all right. Okay, any other questions?
Just for me to my fellow students, I just want to know if they all got Grammarly to work properly or not. So if anyone needs help with that.
Yeah, you need Grammarly, good, because yeah, it helps with the language.
Because when we had the session, was it Wednesday? They briefly showed us how to get it working. So I just want to know if anyone else hasn't got it working or if they need help with it.
That's a question Floyd is asking.
Otherwise, we're still in our own WhatsApp group, so I'm sure they'll.
Okay.
So there's no problem with that.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Any other questions before I end the session? Okay. All right. Happy writing. You still have a whole weekend to work at. Please don't be intimidated, but I hope this is helpful because it just opens your eyes to the reality that writing is not meant to be bad, but it's meant to open our eyes to the world, and we become better the more we attempt and the more we work. Okay, enjoy the evening, and I will be writing to you with the information about the methodology by the weekend, and also once I see the what you call this, the other information I was mentioning, once I get permission, which I don't think should be a problem, I will definitely share the link of that. Karen, you want to ask something?
Yes, Prof. Sorry, I got disconnected there. Prof, yeah, I was still a bit confused about where the questions go about. I'm sorry if you've already answered this.
What questions? The research question.
The research questions, yes.
Okay. So what you need to do, I'll show you here, or we need to share it. Is it showing on the screen?
Not at the moment, Prof.
Not
No.
at the moment. Okay, I have to share again, and then we share. And there we go. It should be showing now. Tell me.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, it's showing now.
Okay. So what we need to do is, as you make the transition to your objectives, okay, under the research problem, okay, under the research problem, which is this one, as you make the transition to the objectives, the last sentence preferably should be the research question. Therefore, the study proposes the following research question. What are the determinants of high-performance computing systems within historically disadvantaged institutions? And what role do the following factors play? And then you write the factors. And then those factors that you're going to obviously mention will be similar to the objectives that you would have stated. So you can't write different objectives and a different question. Is that fine?
Yes. Thank you, Prof.
Okay. So you are measuring what? Are you measuring cyber security, eh?
Yes, Prof. I'm measuring
Okay.
cybersecurity.
So I see a question such as, what are the determinants of high-performance computing systems within historically disadvantaged institutions, and what role does cybersecurity concerns play on? And then you can list attitude towards high-performance computing system, normative influence, those factors within the model. Okay.
Okay, Prof. Thank you.
All right. Any other question? Okay. All right. So all the best, and we'll link up later then.
Thanks a lot, Prof. Take it easy.
Bye.